Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me as well?
Okay. Yes, I can.
Thank you for joining us.
Not a problem.
Um, so how been your day?
It's been okay. A little bit busy, but not too bad. How about you?
Yeah, day has been good. I mean, you're. I think it's this is even better than the pictures and the images that have been flying around everywhere. And trust
Thank you.
trust Nigerians now. Nigerians have been I've received a lot of comments from Nigerians, and I'll be like, when I see some people's comments about the lady, I'll be like, oh, Shele, like what is wrong with this one? If only you know. So I mean, maybe just maybe because you are in Canada. Maybe that's right. Maybe that's right. It's because this is obviously not a Nigerian looks.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, I got my roots from my Nigerian parents, but thank you.
I know, I know. So good to have you here. We'll just
Okay.
wait for maybe another 2 to 3 minutes, then we can start.
Okay.
I'm very sure as we continue, people will join more, and we'll have a very wonderful and nice conversation.
Okay.
The thing is, you just tell us everything we need to know as regards navigating, you know, because I mean, I think students are resuming now in Canada, and personally,
Yes.
I have about two friends who just moved in. In fact, one got in last Saturday. So I mean, these are your from your wealth of experience. We know that they are. Everyone is going to learn a lot, one or two things, because I mean, the main goal for most Nigerians right now is not just to study. When they come in, they also want to settle and integrate and become, citizens. So we know and we hope that you will really help us and show us the way, like they say in local parlance. You know.
I hope so. I hope I can provide some helpful
Uh,
information.
and if we cannot, because I mean, information is not you can't really gauge information. So if let's say we cannot um, finish everything today, we can do this in phases and in parts. So if let's say the information is too much, because sometimes too much information is it may be too much for us to consume, and so um the ones we need to know, we will take them. And if you know that, or if you feel that okay, there's still more, because I know that you have a whole lot in you. So we can do this some other time, later on, maybe in the course of the month, or maybe next month, or so we can always, because
Okay.
yeah. So um with that little background, um, so we can just let us know if you're ready. Then we are all ears. All
All
right.
right. I'll get started then.
Okay. So
Hi, everyone. My name is Tope Obasa. I came to Canada in the year 2005, right after graduating from high school, well, secondary school. I did my grade 12 here again and then moved to university. I graduated in 2011, I became a permanent resident in 2014 and ended up getting my citizenship in 2018. So I've been here for about 18 years now. And today I'll be sharing a bit about navigating change as a Nigerian in Canada. I'll start with a disclaimer though. I'm not an immigration consultant. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not giving any legal advice here. I'm just sharing based on my experience and the experiences of some people that I've known, some of my friends. If you see me looking away for a second, that's because I have my notes right here. So there's
which
nothing
is
really
fine,
going on.
which is perfect. We are fine with that.
Okay, great. Thank you. I will split this little chat into three sections. For the first section, I'll be addressing young undergraduate students and their parents. So these would be people that are coming after finishing high school or secondary school. Some things to be aware of, some tips. The second section would be for those that are postgraduate students, so those that have already finished university in Nigeria and they're coming either as a master's students or they're doing a one-year program at a college just to get their foot in the door. Then the third category would be those that are coming in as permanent residents. So either families or individuals, but when you're coming in as a PR. So those are the three sections. If there are any questions in between, you can type them up and hopefully Daya will keep an eye out for me, but I'll try not to break up the sections. I can address them after each section just so I don't lose my train of thoughts. All right. So the first people I'll be addressing will be for the young undergraduates and their parents. So I'm assuming you finished high school or secondary school in Nigeria, you've gotten your admission, either you're here now or you're in SS2 maybe and you're planning to come next year. The few things that tend to be the biggest pitfalls are people coming and getting distracted and getting carried away. You're not under your parents' thumb anymore. You know, life is good. You have freedom. You have some money. The first thing I always say is just keep your eye on the prize. Your goal here is to complete your studies. You can have fun along the way. There's no problem with that. I mean, you're young. It's a time for self-discovery. You're seeing how you can be on your own. There's nothing wrong with that. But just know that because you're not in your home country, there's some things you cannot do. There's some things you shouldn't lose focus of. If you don't do well in school, you could lose your status. That means I think after 2 to 3 years, you have to renew your study permit. I'm not sure what the validity is these
Wow.
days, but yes, if you have to reapply to renew your study permit, they ask for your transcripts. They want to see how you're doing in school, and they can refuse to renew your study permit if you're failing your classes. So have all your fun, no problem, but don't fail your classes. That's your primary goal. You don't want a case where, okay, you've done your first 2 years, maybe you didn't do well, and then you went to renew your study permit, and they're like, nope, sorry, we're not giving it to you. You have to go back home. You know, that's not a great story to tell. So,
Has this ever happened before?
yes, it has.
Wow.
Yes, it has. So,
In local parlance,
I know
they
this.
say, "Oh, Jono."
By God's grace, that's not anybody's portion, but you know, it has happened. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes even the school itself, I know the school I went to Carleton University. If you don't do well 1 year, they don't kick you out. They put you on what they call academic probation, which means they expect in your second year for you to improve. However, if you had a scholarship or you had um, a full load of courses, they might reduce your course load. And if you don't have a full course load, that also affects your study permits because they expect you to be a full-time student. So the consequences of failing in school are quite immense. So no matter how much fun you're having, just know that what you're there for right now is school. If you're the kind to party all night, when you wake up in the morning, pick up your books. That is your number one priority. So focus on that. The second one that people tend to have some trouble with is finances as well. This is not always under their control because I don't know what financial status people are coming from. If your parents are able to pay tuition, but they can't give you pocket money, things like that, the way to navigate that would be ideally to get a job. And thankfully now with the study permit, you're allowed to work, I think, 20 hours per week, which is a part-time position. So my advice would be to get a part-time job, and the money you make from that job, you can use that for your upkeep, and then your parents can be responsible for your tuition. Um, Most importantly, when it comes to that, is building a budget. You have to have a budget. You need to
Even
know
as a
what your
student.
costs. Yes, 100%. As a student, you need to know how much you're spending on groceries if you're ordering out. Because if you don't have a budget, it's just money comes in, money goes, money comes, money goes, and you can't
Mm.
plan ahead. You're going to have your phone bill you have to pay for every month, depending on if you're renting or if you're on campus. If you're renting, you probably have electricity bills, water bills, whatever the case may be, you have rent. So you have to have a budget and know what your monthly spend is. And you have to plan ahead. There will be things that come up. A friend is having a birthday party. You're going out for dinner. I know in Nigeria it's usually well, I don't know if that's still the case, but back then whoever invites you for dinner is paying because they're the celebrants, right? Not here. You have to hold your money. I
Ah,
can invite you to my birthday party. Oh, let's go to a restaurant. But each person typically is expected to be responsible for their bill. So if you're going to dinner and you find that, okay, this month I have two birthdays, if you're splurging a little bit, then you make room for that next month. Okay, I spent a little bit extra this month. I have to cut down on something next month. And another way people lose a lot of money is through eating out. I know a lot of us may not know how to cook or may not enjoy it, but that's a skill you have to develop. Groceries are pretty expensive right now. So back in the day, I would say it's so much cheaper to buy groceries than to eat out. But honestly, short of eating McDonald's every day, and McDonald's is not even cheap anymore, just find a way to manage that. Eating out can add up very quickly. So it would be best to cook at home when you can, pack lunches when you're going to school. Not always going to the calf to eat, things like that are things that bleed through your monthly finances. And another thing for the ladies that we sometimes forget, you have to put your budget for your hair. Assuming most of us are not making our hair ourselves, and it can cost anything from 100 and up, whether you're doing braids, twists, washing your hair. If you're not able to do all of that yourself, you have to make sure to put that in your budget as well. I think for me, I did it bi-monthly, so it wasn't every month I had to do my hair, but it's something I had to do, so I would put that in my budget. And if you're the kind that needs to get your nails done, mani-pedi, everything, put in a budget. As you go along, if you're finding that you're living beyond your means, then you can start to cut down on things. So maybe I can paint my nails at home instead of going to get it done outside. And I'm not sure what it would be for guys. I'm speaking from my own experience. If there are other things that you find out that that is costing you a lot of money and things you can cut off, then try to do that. You don't want a case where, you can't pay your phone bill. They will cut your phone line 100%. And you don't want a case where it gets on your credits that can ruin your credits. And I'll address that later on in the video as well. So prioritize is the first thing. Keep your eye on the goal. You're there for school, face your studies. The second thing is your finances. Keep that in check. You don't want to find yourself in a bad situation. Then the other tip about getting a job is look on campus first because they're more accommodating to students' schedules. So there are usually different restaurants on campus. There's the bookstore. There are all sorts of places on campus that you can check for jobs. They would be more flexible with your schedules. They understand around exam times you might not be able to work as much as before. So that is where I would start looking as an undergraduate student. Look at the places on campus that you can get a job. It's also easier to go to class from if you're already on campus, so you're not running around the city wherever you are. The next thing is to stay up to date on immigration information. It changes every so often, not every year, but keep your eye out on what is new, what is different, how does that affect you? Because in the past, as students, we had to apply for a work permit to be able to work. Now your study permit allows you to work as a student, but again, you can't go past 20 hours. If that ever changes, you need to be aware. If it goes down, you need to be aware. So keep an eye out on immigration information that could affect you. In Canada, they always say ignorance of the law is not an excuse. You can't work 50 hours and say, oh, no, it used to be 50 hours in the past. They'll say, sorry, we changed it, and you get in trouble for that. So always stay informed. And don't just do hearsay, right? Go to the website canada.ca. There's a link there for immigration. Any question you have, you can type this into the search bar. You can even type it into Google, and most of the time it's canada.ca that comes up first. What I'm trying to say is just be aware of where you get your information from. Then the next step after you finish your program, a little trip that some people find here is that immediately you're done your program, usually online, it would show you you've met all the requirements to graduate. At that point, you need to apply for your postgraduate work permit. The reason is some people wait until they actually graduate, but you have a 90-day time span to apply for your postgrad work permit. Usually you are done in April. Graduation is until June. You've lost about a month and a half out of your 90 days. So, and I've known a case where they said no, they're not giving it to the person because they waited past the 90 days. So you have to make sure that as soon as you're done your program, if your goal is to work, immediately you have the required papers that say you have reached all the requirements. Just apply for your postgrad work permit. Now, the length of the work permit tends to depend on how long your program was. So you may get 2 years, 1 year, 3 years, 6 months, whatever the case may be. But if you're doing an undergrad program, I'm guessing your program is minimum 3 to 4 years. So I don't know what the maximum length at this point is for a postgrad work permit, but it's just something to be aware of that you may get a year or 2 years or 3 years. And the last message is for the parents. It's hard, it's tough to send your 16, 17-year-old away from you. Um, but be patient with them, be understanding with them. You might call sometimes and they don't pick up. Don't get mad. Just, send a text. Okay, I called you. You didn't pick up. I hope everything is okay. I love you. Just reach out to me when you're able. Um, a lot of times people are enjoying their freedom. They're discovering who they are, and mommy's nagging, better pick up your phone, I'll be calling you. Like, nobody wants to hear that, right? So just send a text, okay, please, when you see my missed call, call me back. I'm just checking on you. I don't know any child that would see that and just be like, yeah, no, I refuse to call my mom. So just be patient, give your kids grace. They're still young. Um, and hang in there. You're doing a great job. I mean, any parent that's sending their children to Canada is already, committing a lot to that child. So thank you. And keep that up. Tola, thank you. So it's 3 years for postgrad work permits if you study for a 3 to 4 year program.
Yeah, I think.
And Tayo, I think I saw a question before,
Yeah,
right?
I think Tola was responding to the question of VK.Y. He was asking, will I be able to, will I be able to be a permanent resident through student visa?
Eventually, yes. If you come in as a student, after you graduate, you can apply for a postgrad work permit. You have to work with a postgrad work permit for a full year, and then you should qualify to apply for your permanent residence. And I say should because I'm going to tackle that next. The job you get has to be under a certain category. So, for example, if you're working at a restaurant, being a waiter wouldn't qualify, but if you're a manager, then you could qualify for PR. So I'll address that in the next section. That's for postgraduate students. Okay, so if you're coming in as someone that graduated already, either you're doing your master's or you're doing like a 1 year advanced diploma or a postgrad program, your main goal at that point is to get a job as soon as possible from when you graduate. Because your postgrad work permit, if you're doing a 1 year program, most likely is going to be 1 year. They are not likely to give you anything longer than that. And in that 1 year period, they expect that you have worked for 1 year before you can qualify for permanent residence. So while you are still a student, start looking for a job. It does not have to be a job in your field. However, it has to be under a certain category of the NOC. I think they call it TEER now, TEER. Again, if you go and check canada.ca and you check postgrad work permits and permanent residence, it gives you all the information. So there are categories of jobs that you have to do that would qualify you for permanent residence. So while you're a student, maybe in your last 3, 4 months of your program, start looking for a job. Your goal is that by the time you're graduating, you are just transitioning into a job. So while you're still a student, you can apply for a social insurance number. You need that social insurance number to get a job. Since the study permit allows you to work, since you have that allowance to work, you can apply for your social insurance number. Without that, nobody's going to hire you. So it's better to have that on ground before you start your job search. Um, then the next thing is, again, as I mentioned, as soon as you're done your program, you immediately want to apply for your postgrad work permit. You don't want any period where you end up falling out of status. I think if your work permit, if your study permit is a year, even though it's a 1 year program, usually it's about 6 to 8 months. It's not like January to December, right? It's September to April or something like that. So you still have a little bit of leeway um, for your validity. But the thing is, sometimes the application time, processing time can take long. And you will have to, again, apply for a bridging work permit so that you do not fall out of status. And everything you apply for costs money. If your study permit is about to expire, you have to have already applied for your postgrad work permit. While that is in progress, if something else is expiring, you have to apply for something else. So always give yourself time because at any point in time, you do not want to be considered out of status. Then the last thing for the undergrad students as well, not undergrad, sorry, postgraduate students, I will say in regards to financing, you are also allowed to work. I'm not sure what the hours are, so you can start working to just put some money in your pocket and to support you. And you have to remember to pay your taxes. As long as you're earning income in Canada, you have to pay your taxes. As long as you're over the age of 18, you need to pay
You
your
pay
taxes. And I
taxes.
should have mentioned, you have to pay taxes, yes.
Wow.
Even as an undergrad student, the moment you hit 18, even if you're earning 50 cents, whatever it is, you have to file taxes as an
Wow.
adult in Canada. Yes. So don't forget that. If you're working on campus, off campus, wherever, usually the taxes are automatically deducted from your income. It doesn't even get to your accounts at all, but you still have to file your taxes in the tax season, which is usually February to May. There are a lot of tools that help you do it online. There's H&R Block, TurboTax, if you want to go in person somewhere, you can do that. But don't forget that because I should have mentioned it earlier. Even if you're not a permanent resident, as long as you are a temporary resident, you still have to file your taxes. And that's something that can follow you and haunt you down the way. So the moment you hit 18 that year, 18 or 19, I think it's 18, you need to start filing your taxes. Again, please go and check in case I got the age wrong. Then the last section now is for those that are coming in as permanent residents, or if you're bringing your family in. It's there's going to be an adjustment period. I'm not going to lie. I was never an adult in Nigeria, so I can't speak to the lifestyle you're coming from. However, I do know because I did grow up in Nigeria that you have access to help a little bit easier there. You might be on your own here or you know a friend, but everyone's fighting their fight, everyone's working on their own self. It's a little bit difficult to get the type of help and support that you might have gotten from family back in
Uh-huh.
Nigeria. So when you come, just come with that mindset like, okay, I'm not, it's, you're not coming to, Candyland. Everything is not easy breezy here. However, the benefit we have here is that there's structure. There are rules that tend to just work for you. If you follow the rules, things will work out. Generally, of course, there are always exceptions, but come with that mindset that, okay, I'm ready to do whatever it takes to succeed here. Don't keep thinking that, oh, if things don't work out, I'll just run back. I mean, why are you coming in the first place? If you're coming here, if you're bringing your family here, if you're moving here in your 30s or whatever the age may be, I'm assuming that it's for a purpose. It's because you're trying to build a different kind of life than you have right
Mm-hmm.
now. So if that's your goal, keep your eye on that goal. And there is dignity in labor, is what I like to say. If you have to end up working at McDonald's, do it. That's not everybody's story, and it might not be yours by the grace of God. But if that is what you have to do it. If you don't pay your rent, they will kick you out. Assuming you have nowhere to go to, what are you going to do? So you have to do what it takes to make ends meet. Now, I don't think I've ever experienced a scenario here where someone is like, "Oh, you work at McDonald's. Oh, you do this." Or, no, but everybody here is just, I'm facing my goal, I'm facing my business. And there are people that do make it right off the bat. There's some people that are already coming in with good jobs waiting for them, or their spouse already has a job, or whatever the case may be. But again, like I said, that's not everybody's story. So if that's not yours, just keep your eye on the goal. Focus on your focus. Don't worry
Exactly.
about external things,
Exactly.
right? Just, this is my goal. I got to keep a roof over my head. I got to feed my kids or feed myself, whatever the case may be. You do what you need to do. Then next thing is those coming in as couples. You're going to find that there's a lot more work than you're probably used to. It's not as easy to get a maid here, or a driver, or cleaner, all those things. Everything that you could appoint to somebody else before is suddenly your own responsibility. And not to throw shade or call out men, but a lot of times you're going to find yourself doing a lot more housework or child caring than you did in Nigeria. So
Hmm.
prepare yourself. There's some dads that never had to change a diaper because there's a nanny, or your wife took care of taking them to school, whatever the case may be. I'm assuming that both parents are going to be working, even if not immediately, but at some point. Shared housework is going to be your solution. You cannot leave everything to your wife or your partner or to one person, assuming it's the husband that used to do it before. Your roles might have to be redefined. Just do it. It'll take getting used to, but just do it. You can't, you didn't come, nobody came here to suffer, right? So it's even things that your wife could have given to someone to do in Nigeria. That's all on you. You're going to buy your groceries yourself. There's nobody you're sending to the market or to the store. You're cleaning. Unless you're already very financially stable when you're coming in, then you know what, go right ahead. There's no problem with having someone come over to clean bi-weekly. But if you're coming in a situation where you have to tighten your pockets, then just be prepared for that. It's something that a lot of people don't calculate, and it becomes a pitfall. The next thing is, thankfully, if you're coming in as a permanent resident, there are some benefits that you automatically qualify for. So in Canada, we
Even
have
as a,
something
even
called,
as a permanent resident,
yes, as a permanent
before you
resident.
become citizen.
Yes, sir. The
I would
only
like
difference
that.
between a permanent resident and a citizen is, one, you can lose your status. A citizen can never lose their status. And the second is you can't vote. Short of that, you are entitled to all the rights and privileges of a
Wow.
citizen in Canada.
Wow.
Yeah. So the biggest benefit that I find is helpful to newcomers that have children is the Canada Child Benefits, CCB is what they call it. So depending on how many children you have, the government pays you a subsidy every month
Ah,
to
they pay
support
subsidy.
the child. Yes, you get
In
money
Nigeria,
every
they do
month.
pay subsidy. Yeah, in Canada, they pay subsidy. Hey, God.
Here they subsidize. The point of the program was to reduce childhood poverty, and it's been a very successful program. I think over the years, over 1 million children have been lifted out of poverty. It's one thing when the mom can't, or the parents, excuse me, are struggling, but you don't want your children to struggle too. So the government actually disperses an amount every month to parents of children, and it's a
Hmm.
fixed amount per child. So if you have two children, it's one amount per child, not like in total. Um, the amount you get depends on your income, which is why it's important to file taxes even before you become a permanent resident. So they take a look at the taxes you filed the year prior, and they calculate, okay, this is how much you're entitled to. And every month it's dispersed. Usually they deposit it into your account if you sign up for that. Otherwise, they send a check every month. There are also other benefits that you could qualify for. So just keep your eye out on what you are qualified for, what you can get, what you can apply for, because those little, it's not always little, it can be a lot. Those benefits are usually very helpful. Now, if you're in a situation where you have children, you're comfortable, take that money and I would suggest opening a RESP. What an RESP is, a registered education saving plan. So it's a specific bank account that you open and you deposit money into. The plan, the purpose of that account is that your kids have money when it's time to go to higher education. If you get that CCB, that's the benefit, and you don't need it for your day-to-day functioning, just put it into an RESP. Now, the benefit of that RESP is that the government gives you money every month for saving money. That means if
Wow.
you pay a certain amount into your account, there is always a top up. So if you pay 500 into the account every month, I think you're qualified for 5% of that the government puts in. I don't know the exact numbers, you can look it up, but that is a very good saving tool for higher education because university is not cheap. And the children have access to the full amount. So imagine if you come in when your kids are 3 or 2 and you're saving up until they're 18, because that's the age they graduate from high school here is 18. Once they get into a higher institution, all that saving now they have access to that for school, but it has to go towards education. So isn't it great when you're in your 50s, whatever, you're not struggling to look for how to pay your kids' school fees, everything has been saved already. So the benefit of that account is the top up that you get from the government. So for whatever you save, they add more to it.
I
So
mean,
if you, mhm.
with all these benefits you're talking about, I'm just thinking that please, what are they still doing in Canada? Let them come and pack all of us now.
No,
Because
no, no.
I mean,
They can't do
for me
that.
now, I've heard about 3 to 4 benefits from, as in just being a permanent resident in Canada. I've heard about 3 to 4 benefits. So, I mean, all of these things I've never heard them before. And thanks to Tola for helping us to even break them down, like write the meaning, the CCB Canada Child Benefit, monthly subsidy. I mean, so I can have a child and government will be paying me for having a child. Me, I will have child. So it's just all of these information are things that we here, even sure some people in Canada, especially the newbies in Canada, they don't know about it. And this takes me to where I will say that maybe the next time we'll, plead and try to drag you to come again, maybe it will be about you telling us the various benefits of a permanent resident enjoying in Canada, because I can see that they are quite you know a lot, and we'll just take there will be a particular session where we'll take all of that, you explain them, so that everyone will know which one you can benefit from. If you are a mother, if you are a student, if you are a worker, if you are, so let's just continue, and I'm writing things down, and I'm sure a lot of people are writing things down. So you can continue, man.
Okay, thank you. And then the next thing I was going to mention is to build credit. So our financial system here is based on a credit system. When you first come in as a new immigrant, there are a lot of banks now that have packages for new families, newcomers to Canada, and the package would usually include a bank account and a credit card. Now, I think we're all familiar with credit cards, and it's not your money. That's where I always start from. That money on the credit card does not belong to you. It belongs to the bank. Everything you spend from it has to go back to the card. If you mess up your credit, you're getting started on a very bad foot. If you
Wow.
want to buy a car, you need good credit. If you want to rent, not just buy a house, but if you want to rent, they check your credit. So everything as you're going up, everyone is checking credit. They just want to know if you're a reliable person that they can lend money to. It seems counterintuitive, but the more credit you have, the better credit rating you have. which means if you are safely able to manage two credit cards, it is okay to have two credit cards because that means there are two different people, two different entities that feel like they can trust you with credit. If you're getting a car loan, that's a source of credit. That's a credit line. There's some banks that, along with your bank accounts, they give you a line of credit. Those type of things are good for building your financial history. I will warn you, if you are not yet good with finances, start with just one credit card. Because if you mess it up, it takes about 7 years here in Canada. It's 7 years for a bad credit to fall off your credit report. So that would take a very long time. So even if you do pay the debt back, if it shows on your credit report that you fell out of status or you owed or you were late on a payment or you missed a payment, that it like docks you points. So your credit will drop if those things happen. So if you're not sure about your credit, you're not good with it, start with one credit card. Don't get two, three, four, and then find that you're spending more than, because it gives you that false illusion that, oh, I have access to all this money, but you got to pay it back.
Mm.
So, be careful with that, but it is also very important. That's why I would say at least get one. But if you cannot manage your money, get the one and stick with the one until you're better, and then you can build other lines of credit and then have access to that. Um, the next one, I was going to say, if you're not here yet and you're planning on coming in as a permanent resident, is to do your research. A lot of people just default to Ontario. I mean, I'm guilty. I live in Ontario as well, but there are other provinces that are easier to get into. There's
Mm.
some provinces that do a provincial nomination, which means if you apply, then they say, okay, we want you to live in our province. And it's easier to get in or to get approved with a provincial nomination. You can imagine how long that list will be for Ontario as compared to other provinces. And I think you have to work or live there for a year or two before you can move anywhere else. Time goes by so fast, even if it's a place with a crazy cold, whatever the case may be, do what you got to do. Do what you got to do. If you're going to live in a freezing environment, winter is what, 6 to 9 months, you'll be fine. Just get in here first, if that's your goal, right? So look at the provincial nomination programs, look at other avenues of coming in as a permanent resident. Don't think, Montreal, Toronto, those are the only places I can live. Open your mind, do your homework, and you will see that there are other opportunities that people are not aware of. There was a time that some provinces were actually paying people to live in their province
Wow.
because they're short of doctors or short of people in a certain field.
Oh.
Exactly. So there's some small towns where they have to drive 30 minutes, 45 minutes to see a doctor. So those types of provinces, those types of cities will say, look, if you're a doctor, come. We'll give you housing for 1 year, whatever it
Wow.
is. So, yes, do your homework, do your research, and
Mm.
you might find an easier path than if you just say, okay, it's Toronto, I have to go to Toronto, Toronto. Um, in terms of also coming in, you have to educate yourself on the immigration system. You do not have to have a lawyer. You don't have to use an agency to come in. You can do it yourself. Now, if you
Mm.
have the pockets for it, if you don't like stress, go right ahead and pay an agency. It's all good. There's no wrong way. Well, there are wrong ways, but you can do that too. However, you don't have to. So if you're trying to save money, you can do the process yourself. Canada.ca and the immigration website, they are so clear on the things you need to do. There's always a section on how to fill this form, so you can check it out. It'll say for number one, this is the information you need to put in. For number two, this is the information you need to put in. They go through every question that they're asking you, and they tell you exactly what they're looking for. So you do not need an immigration consultant, you don't need a lawyer, you don't need an agency. However, if you do have questions, things you're unsure about, maybe if you know someone that's gone through the process, you can reach out. If you can't get your answers online, then maybe you need a consultation with an agency. So those avenues are still open to you, but you don't have to do that to come here. There are a lot of people, at least from when I was in here, I filled all my applications myself. If I had to renew a study permit, I did it. If I had to get a work permit, you know, you can do it. It's not difficult. It's stressful because there are a lot of papers and a lot of questions, but it's not difficult. So you can do that. Then lastly, for those that are coming in as PR, I will strongly recommend if finances are an issue, is a side hustle. It doesn't have to be anything major. If you know how to make hair, there is a shortage of people that know how to braid properly. If you know how to sew clothes, like just to get one outfit sewn here is like $200 and up.
Wow.
And if that's a skill that you have, oh yeah, it costs a lot for some of these things we take for granted back home. You know, you just walk over, you go to your tailor. To change a zip is like almost $60. So
Mm.
if these are skills that you have, you can market it within your small community. Just spread the word. If you're going to church, if you go to a local mosque, you can say, oh, I make hair by the way, oh, I know how to sew. Like I can't count how many like clothes I didn't even bother fixing just because the zip broke. I wasn't about to go and pay $50 or 60 to change a zip for an outfit I bought for $30. And that's the end of it. But that can be $10 in your pocket or, 15, however you choose to charge for it. So nobody's saying you have to go and start a business right away, but you can do little things to make money. If you know how to cook, there are lots of people like me that we hate to cook. I pay sometimes to get, okay, even if it's jollof rice, I'm not cooking. Just I go to someone and they cook, I buy the food, I keep it in my house, I serve my husband, my children. Cooking is a great way, making hair. So those things that are not as easy for people in our community or cost a little bit more, those are great ways to just get a little bit of money to put in your pocket. When the kids are in school, if you don't have a job yet, you can make hair. There are a lot of slave mamas outside that need to get their hair done, and there are not enough salons that cater to Black women that cater to Black women. So that is a need that you can fill. And it's not cheap either. Like I was saying, to get braids done can cost you 150 to $300. So it's not chicken change. So open your mind, try to do a side hustle if you need extra money. If you don't, that's great too. Um, I think that was all I had for those coming in as PR or for the families that are moving in. Then at the end, let me see, I have just some general tips that should apply to everybody. Obey the laws. If you're on a temporary visa, so that's study permit, work permit, if you are arrested, if you are charged for any crime, you're out. There's no two ways about it. You're leaving.
Or
They
like
will deport you.
so so it's not like Nigeria that I can say, oh God, beg.
Which organ?
Yeah,
No,
in Nigeria.
no,
If anybody says, oh God, beg, we are use this one by cook. So you can't use this one by cook in Canada.
no, sir. There might be someone that would take it, but the chances of finding that person are so slim that you do not want to risk it. So I would say just obey the laws.
The
Don't
best
get
thing.
caught slipping. Don't. Exactly. So if you are on a temporary visa, temporary resident visa, obey the laws. In fact, don't jaywalk. You cross at the lights. Don't do anything that would put your status at risk. The second thing is do not fall out of status. It costs a lot of money, a
Mm.
lot of headache, a lot of time to renew your status. If a document is expiring, give yourself enough time to renew or to apply for whatever the next step is. You cannot work if you do not have a valid work permit because your social insurance number is tied to the validity of your work permit. So some people are just like, oh, okay, okay, I'm running out of time, but I'll do it later. If your social insurance expires, your company is not going to let you keep working. They might not fire you, but they'll say, hey, you can't work until your social insurance has been renewed. And you cannot renew your social insurance number until you have a new or a valid work permit. So don't fall out of status. just know what your next step is. Give yourself, I think they say 30 to 60 days to apply, because depending on some cases, you have what is called an assumed status. So that's usually with a study permit, for example, if it expires while you're in school, as long as you've already applied to renew it, it's called assumed status. You can continue going to school. You don't have to stop your classes. However, if you do not apply before it expires, you do not have assumed status. You are now out of status, and you cannot continue your studies. You can't continue to work. So just make sure you don't fall out of status. You could get it back, but that's a lot of money you're looking at, a lot of headache. Nobody wants any of that, right? So just keep an eye on your expiration dates. Keep an eye on your status and what the next step is. So if you have a postgrad work permit, the law generally is that you cannot renew a postgrad work permit. Once it's done, it's done. If you've not applied
Oh,
for your
really?
PR, sorry for you. Yes, for
Wow.
a postgrad work permit, you have to have found a job or applied for something else within that time period. That is how long they're giving you to sort yourself out. After that, it's only under special, specific circumstances that a postgrad work permit can be extended. I think they started doing it because of COVID and the delay in processing. However, the default is that you cannot renew a postgrad work permit. So try your best. That's why I said before you graduate, you already have to start looking for a job. Even if it's not in your field, as long as it's within the NOC codes or the TEES, that will qualify you for permanent residence. Then work, work, work. If you're doing a job you don't like, don't quit unless you have another job already lined up. And by lined up, I mean they've already offered you employment, not that you're just in the interview stage. Just stick with it. Close your eyes, go home and cry if you have to. Go back to work the next day. Just make sure, because that time period you have, that's all you've got. And you have to have 1 year of full-time work to qualify a for permanent residence. You can't work part-time. You have to be full-time employed. Those are the only jobs that will qualify you for permanent residence. What else? When in doubt, look it up. So Canada.ca is going to be your favorite website. Just if you go to Canada.ca, all the information that you need about immigration, about your status, about what to apply for, it's all there. So just go check it out routinely. You can set up, like, if you get news notification, just type IRCC so that you get updates about everything immigration related. And another thing I forgot to mention is when you come in with a study permit, you need to still have a TRV. TRV is called a temporary residence visa, also known as a visitor's visa. If you leave the
Okay.
country, even if you have a study permit, you still need a visitor's visa to get back in. So it messed me up because I remember in my second year, I went back to Nigeria and I got to the airport to come back. I was showing them my study permit and they're like, no, you can't come back. I'm like, what do you mean? So I had to, within Nigeria, go to the Canadian embassy and apply for a visitor's visa. So if you plan on leaving the country while you are still on a temporary residence, while you're still a temporary resident, that's a student or work permit, you have to have a visiting visa to come back into the country.
Hmm.
Even as a permanent resident, your PR card allows you to come back in. You don't need it, but anything before PR, you have to have a visitor's visa to get back into the country. So don't leave without that. You won't be able to get back. Just another general thing is be open-minded. The environment here, the community here, the culture here is different from where you're coming from. It's a lot more liberal to a certain extent. So you can't come with preconceived notion and looking down your nose at everybody like, oh, what's this person doing? What's this person wearing? Just mind your business. Do what you want to do. Leave other people to do as they want to do. It's a different environment. It'll take some adjusting, but if not, no one is doing anything to harm you directly, just leave everyone be. If there's anything you don't want to see, look away, right? you have to open yourself to the fact that this is not your land, this is not your home. You are in somebody else's country, and it's not your place to tell them how to live their lives. So you do you, let everybody else do them as well. Some other things that might take adjusting to is the workplace. The environment is a little bit different from what I've heard. I never worked in Nigeria, but the environment is a little bit different. You have to carry yourself with confidence, even if you're in a lower position, right?
Mm.
In Nigeria is, okay, yes, sir, no,
Yes,
sir,
sir.
yes, ma.
Okay, ma. Yes, ma.
No, yes, it's not the same here. You have to maintain your humility, of course. Nobody's saying you should carry your shoulders up. However, you do have to carry yourself with a certain level of confidence because it's so easy for people to try to take advantage if they
Mm.
see that, oh, I don't want to do my work. I can give it to this person because they say yes to everything I say.
Oh,
You
wow.
know? Exactly. But you also have to be diligent. Let them not find any fault with you because it is so easy for you to, it's easy to be the scapegoat, right? It's like, oh, that person is so lazy. They're not doing anything. It's easy for you to be the scapegoat. If you're working, work hard. Come on time. There's no Nigerian time at work. A lot of jobs you actually have to clock in. Like literally when you come in, you have to clock in. I came in at this time, I came out at that time. And all those things are used to evaluate your performance at work. So don't come late. If your lunch is 30 minutes, take 30 minutes. Don't take 40 minutes. Don't take 45. You have to respect the work culture. Nobody says everybody at work has to be your friend, but you have to be friendly to everyone. You have a smile on your face. You say good morning or you say hi, whatever it is, don't try to be an island. Don't try to isolate yourself at work. Networking is everything, and just chatting with the right person might give you information that can set you ahead. So don't try to isolate yourself. Don't feel like you're different. Just try to integrate into the culture, especially in the workforce, because there is a lot of personal preference that goes into promotion. If you and somebody else are equally qualified, but that person is just a little bit friendlier or gives a nicer smile, that person is going to get promoted over you.
Wow.
So just keep that in mind when you're in the workplace, when you're interacting with people. Be friendly to your bosses or to your superiors, things like that. It's a different culture from what you're coming from, but it's something that you also have to keep in mind. Even in the interview process, they want to hear the confidence in your voice. They want you to look them in the eye, don't look away. With us, you can't. You're talking to an adult, you look away. I say an adult because in my mind I'm still young, but a superior is the right word, right? If you're speaking to a superior, you look the person right. It's a sign of being trustworthy. They believe if you're looking away that you have something to hide or you're not being honest. So rack up all the confidence you have, look them in the eye, answer their questions, be as confident as possible. It exactly. Your personality sometimes actually counts more than your skill because they want to work with people that they enjoy working with. They don't want to
Mm.
come to work and be miserable. They're 8 hours a day or somebody's talking to you anyhow. It's like, no, I don't want to work with that person. So even peer reviews. So even they sometimes take into account how do your coworkers like you? How do they get along with you? So you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot
Mm.
because you're carrying your shoulder up or you think you're less than somebody else. You're not. If you're in that job, it's because they believe you have the skills to do it. So just do it and be nice along the way. In terms of job searches, there's some websites um, that have a lot of opportunities. The first would be LinkedIn. A lot of people start to hire through LinkedIn. You can also look into job agencies. So an agency is a place that you submit your resume to, and they're the ones that look for a job. And if your resume is qualified, they would call you, oh, there's this opportunity. Are you interested? Some people don't
Do
like
you pay them?
agencies.
Do you
You do
pay them?
not pay them. However, you don't pay directly out of pocket, but usually the amounts they give you is a little bit less than the advertised
Oh,
pay. So, for example, if the going rate for that job is 18 per hour, they may pay you 13 per hour.
They
and
may pay
keep
you
the
what?
difference. They might pay you 13 per hour
Okay,
if
okay,
the rate is 18, but they take that money directly from the company. It doesn't come out of your paychecks.
okay.
Whatever they tell you is your pay is what you're getting paid, but you know that they're taking a little bit of extra. But that's their pay for finding you the job, you know? So you can start looking through agencies because there's some companies that hire directly through agencies. They don't even have an HR department. They don't do any hiring themselves. So LinkedIn, Indeed, Glassdoor, and Google, like whatever the agencies, the job agencies are in your city. Um, Now, if you are a permanent resident, you can also look for government jobs. That would be jobbank.gc.ca. Jobbank.gc.ca. That's where the government jobs are posted. There are a lot
Sorry, can you
of
call it again?
opportunities. Yes, jobbank.gc.ca.
Okay. I'm sure
Yes.
people got it now.
Yes, jobbank.gc.ca. So if you're already a permanent resident, you should be able to work for the government. There are different levels, of course, but the lower levels, and by levels, I mean security levels. Once you're a permanent resident, you can apply for what they call security clearance. That's just them doing a background check on you that you know you're not a spy, you're not working for another government. It's okay for you to see some of our government secrets. That's what the clearance is. And there are different levels of those clearance. So once you've been here, once you have your permanent residence, you can get the lowest level of clearance and you can work for the government. Now, if you know how to speak French, that is even better. There are a lot of bilingual positions within the government that a lot of us unilingual speakers do not qualify for. So if you know how to speak French or if you are able to learn French before you come, you know, it's a wonderful skill to have in the job force, especially if you're looking to work with the government. In terms of day-to-day experiences, some concerns some people have are things like racism as well. Um, I would say, in my experience, it's not as overt, maybe a little bit more so now than before, but it's what I have noticed is a lot of times these experiences come from a place of ignorance, not maliciousness. They're not intentionally, some people are, most of them are not intentionally trying to be racist. It's just that they have certain stereotypes in mind. They don't know anybody else that is Black or African that has told them any difference. You know, I mean, I had an experience myself, which was out of ignorance. Before I came, I didn't know anything about Aboriginals or First Nation people. And I was in university, and there was this guy that we used to volunteer together. And I like to, I'm a curious person. I like to
Mm.
know things about people. So I was asking him, so where are you from? And he says, I'm from Canada. I said, well, no, where are you really from? Because he didn't look, and he was like, I'm from Canada. I'm like, but you look a little bit different. He's like, why? Because I'm not white. The moment he said that, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. He's like, yeah, that he's Aboriginal, but I knew nothing about Canada's history. So another thing you need to do is educate yourself on this country that you're coming into. You might have that kind of experience. If you do, apologize. It's not like I was trying to intentionally say that, oh, if you're not white, you can't be Canadian. I just had no idea about the Aboriginal and about Aboriginals, about their history in Canada. So educate yourself. Don't get caught slipping like me. But if you do, just apologize. And it's the same way sometimes with me. I can't count how many people told me, oh, your English is so good. I'm like, I hope so. I've been speaking it all my life. They don't know. They just assume that we speak a different language because we're not white or American or North American.
Mm.
A lot of people don't know or they didn't know that English was the first language in Nigeria. So, well, what's your name? Oh, wow, your English is good. I'm like, okay, thank you. Sometimes, depending on my mood, I would tell them that, oh, yeah, English is our first language. If I'm not, I'm just like, thank you, and I keep it moving. You can't get offended by every little comment. There are people that just genuinely don't know. If you feel the need or the desire to explain, go ahead. If you don't, just brush it off. Now, if there's a case where there is overt, clear racism going on, don't be quiet. Address it because you don't want them to feel like it's something that they can get away with. Sometimes in a store or wherever it is, you sometimes you get the vibe, just address like, hey, I you don't speak to me like that, or don't talk to me, like whatever the case may be. Address it firmly but politely. You're
Politely.
automatically going, yes, yes, be polite, but be firm. So you don't have to start swearing at the person or, cussing them out or anything like that. But you should address it so that you don't feel trampled on, so they don't feel like you're someone that can be trampled on. If
Mm.
it is a legitimate concern of yours, whether it's at a workplace or whatever, wherever it is, bring it up. I mean, I was a student once and I was going around the store and this lady just kept following me and my friends. And it's not like it was an expensive store. It's not a designer store. There were lots of people around, but every corner we turned, this lady was just following us. So I just went to the cash, I dropped my stuff, and I said, look, I just want to let you know that what this person is doing is not right. And they're like, oh, what happened? I'm like, everywhere we go, she's following us around the store. And, it's very uncomfortable. There's nobody else she's following. We didn't even have a backpack or anything. There was nowhere to stuff. And, if people say, oh, you're wearing a hoodie, you were doing this, you were doing that, I wasn't. I was just existing. And so in those types of cases, speak up, but don't lose your cool because then you become that crazy black person. Just be firm, be polite. And short of that, I've had a very positive experience here and all the time that I've spent here. I haven't moved around a lot. I've lived in the same place for about 17 of my 18 years here. However, I
Wow.
have traveled around Canada. Yeah, so explore if you have the chance, if you have the finances, look around. Canada is very big. So don't restrict yourself to certain experiences, right? If you've never gone skiing before, go try it. We're all afraid of winter. Oh, it's so cold. How can you live in Canada? Well, the people that live here live here. Their skills, right? You layer up. That's what you do. You get a very good, nice thick jacket and you layer up. If you get hot, you take one sweater off. You still have your shirt underneath. You still have your coat. So there are ways to survive the more difficult parts of being in Canada. Like I said at the beginning, you have to ask yourself, what is my goal? Why am I here? And everything else that is impeding or will stop you from achieving your goals, then you find ways to deal with it. Just consider giving up is not an option. The moment you're a permanent resident, if you want to go back to Nigeria, you can go. At least you know you have the chance to come back
Come
if
back.
you need to. Exactly.
Sincerely.
So,
No, you can finish your line of thought.
yeah, it's the same thing. I was just gonna say, so just keep your eye on your goal. You can fall back to Nigeria if you want that, but at least you'll have the option to come back if you want to.
All right. So, sincerely, this has been a very, very um, enlightening session. In fact, it's doing me. Let me use that word. It's doing me like I should just go to the airport now and say, yeah, please, where's the next flight to Canada? You've really made. I used to think that I know a lot about Canada, even though I'm still in Nigeria. So I used to think I know a lot about Canada. But trust me, what I've learned today, what I've heard today, I'm not sure I would have heard it somewhere else before now, or maybe after now. So, thank you very much. Um, we'll take few questions. I wrote some questions down, and these are most likely, the general questions. Um, young people, young person like me who wants to come to Canada would, they have in the mind. So let me. We've answered one. The one that asked about can he get a permanent residence through student visa. That one has been answered. But I wrote some here, So let me take it from the beginning. Is it possible from your side also as a, so this is for postgraduate students. Is it possible from your side also that can you get to pay your tuition from what you earn from your side also? Is it possible? Because hear most Nigerians they want to study. Let me just pay the deposits. When I get there, I'll sort myself. is it possible in Canada? So I would like
Um,
to know that.
it depends on your side hustle and how
Mm,
much you're making from it. If you're someone that is choosing to maybe make hair, for example, how
okay.
much you make will depend on how many people's hair you can make. But then again, like I said, your priority as a student is to make sure that you're passing in school. You don't want to take on too much in the job side of things that you're now falling behind in your academics because you will mess yourself up. Now, if you can come up with a business idea that is easy to run and brings in lots of income, then for sure you could definitely pay
Your
maybe
tuition.
part of your tuition. I don't know about
Okay.
the full thing because if you're exchanging naira, it's for international students, it's what 3 to 4 times the for local students. So some people's tuition is like 15,000 for 1 year. So I mean, it is not very likely to make that kind of money from your side hustle. That's why I said you should already have paid your tuition. The side hustle is for personal upkeep. Yes,
Exactly.
it's not likely that you're going to be able to afford your full tuition based on a side hustle or based on working part-time, which is all you can do as a student.
Okay. So the question.
So I would
Okay.
not recommend that.
All right. The second question would be that you talked about the credit card thing. So
Yes.
so I want to ask, is it compulsory that I have to or I must have a credit card for someone like me? So let me use myself as an example. For someone like me, I don't like. Let me use the word basic. I don't like basic. I would rather if I don't have money, I would rather go to bed hungry than to borrow money.
Yes.
You know, some of us
Yes.
we like our peace of mind. We like our, you know. So is it possible? What if I say, okay, I don't need your credit card. If I come, whatever I can buy, I can afford. I will afford. If I cannot afford, I will manage. Is it possible?
It is possible to not have a credit card. It is not advisable because you will be setting yourself back financially. You
Oh
need
wow.
to have a credit history. In fact, having no credit is as bad as having bad credit. So if you are someone that is disciplined and you don't like this, just equate your credit card as the moment. In fact, if you want to pay for something, have that money in your debit card or in your accounts. The moment you pay for it with your credit card, you send the money right away and
In
pay
the
it
make.
off. You don't
Okay.
have to wait a long time to pay your credit card. And that's where people can get into trouble is that they spend, and then one day want to pay everything back. If you are generally a disciplined person, do not spend anything that is not in your account. Don't say,
Okay.
when my paycheck comes, I'll pay it because that paycheck money is already assigned for something else.
Mm,
If you cannot afford it from your debit card, you cannot afford it from your credit card. So the moment you pay for something with your credit card, just send the money and pay it off the same day or the same week.
okay. So my last question for tonight would be that you talked about the temporary resident visa. That's the travel visa. You said if
Yes.
you have a work permit or student visa and you want to go out, you need that temporary resident visa to come back to Canada. So the
Yes.
visa can only be gotten in Canada, right?
Wrong. It's the same visitor's visa that you get. So a lot of people that are coming in from
Okay.
Nigeria already have a visitor's visa, and then they issue you a study permit as well or a work permit.
Okay.
So what you need to do in that case is make sure it doesn't expire. So if you
Okay.
already have your visitor's visa, it has a certain validity period. It expires so days of time. If your travel out of the country is going to be past that date, you need to make sure you renew. Well, they don't renew, you just apply for another one. You have to apply for another temporary residence visa or visitor's visa. And the
All right.
processing time for a TRV is usually quicker. It's quicker than things like PR and that kind of stuff. It doesn't take too long. So just make sure if you're planning on leaving the country, apply for your reentry. It has so many names, reentry visa, temporary resident visa, visitor's visa, whatever you call it. Just make sure you have it. That is what would let you get back into the country.
Okay. That's all from my end. Vicky.y was asking that I think we've answered that question, that can one get a job that can pay its tuition fees, and Tola Adetayo has helped us to answer that. And I must give a shout out to Tola Adetayo, because she was helping us to put in some explain some terms, some terminologies. She was helping us answer some questions, and which make the whole, um, you know, live sessions more interesting and interactive. Thank you so much. So from Tope, thank you for
Yes.
coming.
Yeah.
Definitely, we'll have you back very soon. I hope you will. I hope you will answer us when next we call, because we are calling back very soon. It might not be so soon, but soon, child. Soon is soon. Yes, because I
Okay.
mean, there's a lot. We can't just allow you to not give us information. I mean, I'm already thinking on top of my head that there will be a session where you just it will be basically the benefits, like benefit of being a resident, a either a Canadian, you know, citizen, or a permanent resident in Canada. I'm sure that will take, you have a lot to share with us on that. So there'll be a session for that, and we hope that, like I said, when we come calling again, you answer and pick our call. Thank you
I
very
will
much.
do my best. Sorry, I wanted to say one last thing before
Okay.
signing off. I wanted to mention to create a community for yourself. You're going to need help along the way,
Mm.
whether you're students, you come in as a permanent resident. If you have people that you know here already, um, try to maintain those ties, not
Mm-hmm.
so that you come and become a burden, but just so that there's someone that you can, um, I want to say lean on, but even if it's just to get information, right? So I've been living here for a long period of time. If one of my friends or one of my schoolmates is moving to Canada, I'm opening enough that you can send me a message. Oh, what happened here? How do I do this? How do I do that? It's not everybody that I'll open my doors to. Oh yeah, you can stay in my house. It's not about that, right? It's just about having access to people. Don't close yourself off. You can't do it by yourself. There's so much that you don't know. So you need to have people or someone that you can ask questions to, reach out to, and even Nigerians.ca is also a great resource, right? They post a lot of helpful information, like they have some information about the best bank accounts for students. Probably at some point, I would recommend they do something about phone bills and who are the best companies to go for, that kind of stuff. So just open your eyes, reach out. You can send them DMs, they tend to respond. So don't try to do it by yourself. Oh, I see a question. As a nurse, can I get a job while schooling? I'm a registered nurse here in Nigeria. Um, while you're in school, you are allowed to work. However, I don't know if you can work as a nurse here if you are still in school, because I know either for nursing or some fields, you have to do some qualifying exams before you can practice here. I don't know if nursing is one of them, unfortunately. Sorry, that's not my area of expertise. But you can look for job posts for nurses in Canada and see what they're asking for, and then you'll be able to know. But I know there's some qualifying exams for some practices that you have to do. So as a student, you might not be able to work as a nurse, but you could work as a receptionist in a nursing home or as a helper for a personal support worker. You can work in the field, but you may not be able to work as a nurse that is directly working with patients. I'm
Okay, he said he's already
already
on
in
the
the
exam. Okay, so I think you're already on the right track. So
correct.
thank you very much. We have about I think 46 persons joining us. When I scrolled up, counting, and it's quite good to know that at least we've passed out information to about 46 people, and I'm sure we are. I'm part of them. I mean, for me, I learned a lot, quite a lot, and I'm going back to my drawing board. I'm going back to say, hope I'm not wasting. Hope I think I need to be I need to do faster. Like they will say, I need to do fast. So um, thank you very much once again for having us. Thank you for honoring our invitation. We are so happy, and like I said, we always call back. So
Okay.
on this note, I want to wish everyone a very good and lovely and wonderful weekend. It's already weekend here in Nigeria. It's past 8 here, and we wish everyone a nice weekend. And once again, thank you for coming to all our
My pleasure.
guests and to our speaker. Thank you so much for this wonderful informative session. Vicky.y. Okay, please, I need someone to talk to someone. I can always ask questions on the process. You can always send us a DM. Our DM is open. Follow us, send us a DM, and we'll always respond to you. So thank you very much. This video will be uploaded on our feeds, and you can always come back to check and go through and rewatch and just save. You can even download them. We'll make it available for you to download. So thank you very much, and have a wonderful
Thank you.
night. And
You
for
as
those in
well.
Canada, have a wonderful day. Take care.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.